अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुदस्त्वन्नन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः. We are continuing our discussion of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. As you may remember, we just discussed the 23rd and 24th verses, but I shall just try to sum up, give a summary of what we discussed in the last session. The chapter deals with Karma Yoga, the science of combining spirituality in our everyday life, how to combine both spiritual values and also secular worldly duties and responsibilities. That is the subject of discussion in the third chapter. So the text tells you that our daily obligations, our actions facing the challenges of daily life need not necessarily be in conflict with spirituality. Spirituality can be practiced every day, every moment, in every thought, every word we speak. So spiritual life or spirituality is not something that is separate from the secular. Action and contemplation, duties and worship, the secular and spiritual can be combined. That is the subject of discussion here. In the 22nd verse, the teacher tells us that there is a tendency among people to follow the path of the enlightened one. Yadit acharadi shrestha tattadeva itaro janaha sayat pramanam kurude lokaha tad anivartade. Lord Krishna, the teacher of the Gita, is going to tell us eventually that he is always active. He never keeps quiet for a moment. In fact, it is true of all great spiritual teachers. You don't find a single instance, example, of a great spiritual teacher who just kept quiet, confining his knowledge to his own private self without telling others. Not that you go about parading your scholarship or enlightenment, but you certainly consider as a part of a spiritual responsibility to teach others by words, by preaching, and also by example. So, Lord Krishna here tells us that normally we always have a tendency to follow the actions and the thoughts and ideas of those whom the world considers as the enlightened one. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Name parthasi kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinjana nana avaptam avaptavyam varta evacha karmani. This 22nd verse we already discussed. So here if you read the translation, you find the word I, the first person, is used. Here Lord Krishna says somebody like me or anyone who is enlightened, there is no need for them to work for a definite purpose to achieve a goal. In fact, those who are highly enlightened, a Buddha, for example, or anyone for the matter, if they have reached the highest spiritual goal in life, then again they won't feel the need to do something more than that. Because when we get spiritually enlightened, you feel, if you get a feeling that, well, I have achieved what I should strive to achieve. In fact, that contentment itself is one unique characteristic of spiritual enlightenment. There is no more desire for such a person. If there is a desire, it always implies incompleteness, imperfection, a want or a need to be yet fulfilled. So, name parthasi kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nan avaptam avaptavyam varte evacha karmani aham karmani ega varte. This is a Sanskrit sentence. I mean, I am always active, engaged in work. I have nothing in this world to achieve. This idea is again put forward further again. The whole mystery of how the great spiritual teachers kept themselves busy, going and traveling and preaching, because they have nothing else to do. The problem is, action is always problematic for those who are unenlightened. And their action becomes a blessing to those in the case of those who are enlightened. Normally, we work hard with a definite desire, and it is very natural that we do not always succeed 100% in achieving what we want to achieve. So action is by its very nature imperfect, in the sense that it doesn't bring 100% satisfaction, 99%. So that 1% itself again prompts us to continue our action. So there is a feeling of incompleteness which propels further action. But once you reach a level of spiritual enlightenment, then you reach a point when you don't feel the need to work hard again and again with a definite selfish purpose. You don't feel that way. Still the Christ or Buddhas or Shankaracharyas, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Buddha, all of them are being working. Otherwise, why should Christ, after getting his enlightenment, meditating in a distant place for penance, why should he come out and take this huge burden and bring trouble to himself? A Buddha, he was an enlightened one. And again he continued preaching for 80 years. The whole mystery is something interesting. Did they have something to achieve, some selfish purpose to be achieved by leading other people along their path? It is natural, it is characteristic of a noble person who is an enlightened person to do something for others. It is natural. What is spontaneous and natural? You don't ask a question. Why should water flow from higher level to lower level? There is no real question and no real answer. It is characteristic of it. So also it is characteristic of an enlightened person to continue working for the good of others. Only there is a difference. They work as masters. Those who are not enlightened spiritually, they work as slaves. So far as we are prompted by selfish desires, push forward to work again and again, always striving to achieve some goal, not always fully succeeding, again continuing the same effort, sometimes getting frustrated, disappointed, sometimes become overjoyed, pain and pleasure, both sides of the coin. We are not working as free men or women, we are working as slaves. But a spiritually enlightened person who has nothing to achieve, work as a free person. You can just imagine, suppose somebody is a blind man, old man is standing on the other side of the street, and you have no obligation to help him to cross the street. If you don't help him, nobody is going to question you, nobody is going to punish, and if you are not going to be rewarded if you help him. Still you, by your natural tendency, you help him to cross the street. And there you are a master. But suppose we are forced and compelled obliged to do something which we don't like, there is a feeling of self-enslavement. So, when you get spiritual enlightenment, or when you combine spirituality with everyday life, then we are able to work as masters. And there's a great joy in working as masters. Everyone wants freedom. Political freedom, economic freedom, social freedom is wonderful. But at the internal level, we may not be free all the time, so long as we are not fully contented. And the contentment, as we call in Sanskrit, kritakrityada kritarthata, means, well, I have done what I should have done, I have achieved what I should have achieved. That freedom is characteristic of somebody who works as free men and free women. And that is possible only when you combine action with contemplation. And when we combine contemplation, what happens is we understand the bankruptcy of working all the time propelled by desires, worldly desires, and we slowly start practicing detachment from these desires. Otherwise, actions are always problematic, unavoidable, results are unpredictable. At the same time, we have no way out. So why don't we take a different perspective towards our duties and responsibilities and everyday obligations? That's what Gita is talking about here. And then in the 23rd verse is a very famous verse. Yadi hyaham navarteyam jadu karmani atantritaka mama varma anuvartande manushyaha partha sarvasyaha is a very famous verse. These are all great spiritual statements that apply to all spiritual personalities, religious traditions. That's so universal. So, Lord Krishna says, if I did not continue my work, though I have nothing to achieve. Lord Krishna was the embodiment of spiritual enlightenment. So he was not in need of work to achieve a definite purpose. But still he says, if I didn't work, if I stopped doing work, then the whole world will perish. Sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyam ima prajaha. And that will cause disaster to the world. Because of admixture of races, there will lead to ruin of human life. May look a bit pompous and outlandish, maybe exaggerated, but it's a fact. Let's just imagine. Suppose you think of great spiritual teachers who talk about higher spiritual values, who talk about the problem of worldly desires, who preach against being enslaved by our own worldly, sensual, worldly desires. And immediately, we all take it very seriously. Tomorrow onwards, I will have no desire. I will totally be free from desires. No, Lord Krishna says that will lead to the collapse of the order of cosmic life. Later he will tell you in the same session, na buddhi vedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshiye sarva karmani vigdvan yukta samacharan. In the same section, later on we will read. Lord Krishna says, never go about teaching a very high ideal to people who do not have the ability or maturity to understand its true implication. So Buddhiveda means changing the whole perspective. It can create confusion. Even spiritual ideas are highly confusing to people if you just give them an overdose of it. So all great spiritual teachers share one is a fundamental characteristic. They come down to the level of a student, of the common man, and then they give them something which the common people can find practical, beneficial, and applicable. A teacher teaching in a primary school. He may be a Nobel laureate, a Nobel Prize winning physicist, or maybe scientist, but he won't bring his knowledge to a fifth grade student, because that will be totally overturned. That will be enough to overturn the mind of a small boy or a girl studying in the primary school. If he's an ideal teacher, he will come down to the level of the student and will present what he wants to teach in a language and style with which the student understands. If you think about the Jataka tales, Buddha's parables, Sri Ramakrishna's parables, the parables in the Bible, all these are grand examples of great teachers coming incognito as children to the primary classroom and teaching the highest spiritual truth in the language of the young and the school students. So, you find here Lord Krishna says, if I keep quiet and if I preach and practice a philosophy of inaction just because I have no desire to fulfill, then what happens? There will be disaster. If the entire universe, 8 billion people, the whole universe is inhabited by 8 billion Buddhas, there will be no need for law enforcement, judiciary, court of law, nothing, no profession for the lawyers, nothing of the kind. But unfortunately, that is not the case. But there are great ideas which certainly influence people at different levels according to their own ability to receive and understand. That's true. But we cannot do away with the entire law enforcement system because that will create more problems. In fact, it did happen in Indian history. But just those who are interested, those who know, I tell you, partly it was because Buddhism was made the national religion by one emperor in India, and his name was Ashoka the Great, who is responsible for sending missionaries and ambassadors to China, Japan, Central Asian Republic, Sri Lanka, and other countries to spread Buddhism. And he was, according to recorded history, he was the first person to start hospitals for animals. Ashoka the Great. He stopped animal sacrifices. He thrust vegetarianism on the entire continent. In those days, his empire extended all the way from Afghanistan in the west to Burma in the east, and from Sri Lanka in the south, and all the way to Central Asian republics in the extreme north. It's a huge subcontinent was his empire, the old Magadha Empire. The 3rd century BC, almost 180 years after Buddha's passing away. So he waged a terrible battle in which hundreds of thousands of people died, and as a result, he was completely transformed, this great man. So India's national emblem, the Ashoka Chakra is named after him. Chakra indicates the Buddhist symbol. He was such a great man, the embodiment of Buddha's teachings. But what happened, because of that act of completely doing away with the entire social structure, a lot more problems happened. He dismissed the army, dismissed the law enforcement, practically forbade fighting. Soldiers were dismissed from the army, and they took to cultivating lands. As a result, the country was invaded by barbarians. Right from the 1st century AD onwards, it happened. Now, these are examples. It happened in many places frequently, but in a smaller scale. So, that's why Lord Krishna says, action is necessary, but action meant for different people according to their own mental development. Say if a student is suddenly asked, a student who is working hard to get a high grade for examinations, investing a lot of money and everything. Suppose you teach a student in university, but tomorrow onwards you should work without any definite purpose. it will create a total chaos in his mind. So Lord Krishna says, Na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sankaram. Don't do that. So if you want to tell a student the practice of karma yoga, you should say, work hard, do your best, get the highest grade. But remember, there is something still higher in life. Something higher than the highest grade, best job, the highest paid job, the highest success. It's all very wonderful, but there is something much higher. This is how a prophet, a teacher, a spiritual teacher will address the problem. So that's why you find in this verse, there is a well-known verse you can find. Na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshaye sarva karmani vigdvan yukta samacharan. The meaning is this: one should not unsettle the understanding of those who are yet evolving, who have not yet fully reached the highest level of evolution. This is the 26th verse which we are going to discuss again. But it is connected to the 24th verse where Lord Krishna says, if I did not work, I here means the enlightened ones, if the enlightened ones did not work, then if the whole world will imitate the enlightened people, so it will create chaos. So because a Gandhi practiced or a Buddha practiced or Jesus Christ, I am also going to do that, it will be imitation. We must take maybe some people may require millions of years, thousands of life cycles to reach the level of Gandhi or a Buddha, then practice it. Otherwise, it can be a problem for ourselves. Imitation is always a problem. When you imitate, you are trying to block your own path to further progress. Because we don't really achieve those qualities which can be achieved only through hard work, by gradual, slow evolution and progress. That alone can take us to the highest level. But suppose before we reach that point, if we suddenly start practicing imitation, it can lead to create problems. So that's why I give the example of Ashoka, the great example. He's the greatest man of those days, considered to be the greatest man. Arnold Toynbee, Basham, many others have praised him and considered, according to Arnold Toynbee, he's the greatest sovereign, the greatest emperor, the greatest king who ever lived on earth, according to him. He's a mighty emperor who waged a big war and won the war, and then finally when he saw the terrible sufferings of the people caused by his war, he decided to become a Buddhist, became a vegetarian, and started hospitals even for animals, sent missionaries and ambassadors all over the world, all over the then civilized world, to spread Buddhism. But what happens is he enforced this upon everyone, and that created that led to some kind of an unsettlement of the social structure. That's the idea behind. The 25th verse is very important from the standpoint of a spiritual seeker. It says, Saktaha karmani avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvan tatha yukta jigishu loka sangraham. See, Saktaha karmani avidvamsaha yatha kurvanti bharata. Saktaha means those who are attached, full of selfish desires. That's the people who work hard 24 hours a day, maybe at least 10, 15, 16 hours a day, making plenty of money with a definite plan, millions of dollars in the bank, lot of desires, very successful, very driving, and also taking pills for getting 4 hours sleep every day because the mind is not settled, always suffering from anxiety, neurosis, depression, frequently. So this is the case of people, Saktaha karmani avidvamsaha. Avidva means those who are ignorant of this philosophy of combining, the art of combining spirituality and action. Spirituality on the one hand and the problem of daily duties and responsibilities. Not that those who are ignorant of that. But they have tremendous enthusiasm, efficiency, and successful all the time. Kuryat vidwan tatha asaktaha chigishu loka sangraham. Then there is another person, let us his brother, let us say. Another group of people. His brother, give you just an example. His brother is vidwan, enlightened one. He is equally successful, if not more, equally efficient, equally hardworking, perhaps even more hardworking, because when you are not enslaved by this obsessive attachment to the results, you conserve a lot of physical and intellectual energy which are not dissipated, distracted. So you can focus more energy on the work we are doing. So the work will be much better done. The results will be lot better. So asakta, but he is not attached. He does his work as dharma. So dharma means my duty, my work. So do to the best of our ability. But he also wants success, but is not enslaved, not obsessed by the nagging the attachment to success to the point of losing sleep. So what's the difference? The difference is the one brother is working hard but is suffering from anxiety, neurosis, depression, all kinds of problems, not getting sleep. The slightest fluctuation in the stock market will unsettle his mind, and every problem is a big dilemma for him. Because he lives every moment, and every micro moment, every micro event is a big dilemma for him, a disaster for him. I've seen some people 24 hours, something happened in Philippines, something is happening here in another part of the country, what a pity, what a problem. And they're always worried. Well, that worry, the worry is good, you may wish that world lives a much better life in this world. Maybe things are much better. There are not too many problems. That is a very wonderful wish. But why should we get obsessed with this to the point of our own getting into imaginary problems, causing strain, depression and stress? It doesn't mean that you should become insensitive. It doesn't mean that. So, kuryat vidwan tatha asaktaha chigushu loka sangraham. It's not that you are insensitive. So detachment, or when you call somebody asaktaha, a person is fully detached, not attached, doesn't mean that he is totally cold. He is totally unresponsive. He is non-reactive. He has no compassion, not at all. It means he is doing more for the good of the world, but he is doing that from a higher perspective. He is doing as a master of his senses, not as a slave of his senses. His mind is not his enemy, mind is his friend, because mind is calm and quiet. So, saktaha karmanya vidvam soyatha kurvanti bharata. Kuryat vidvan tatha asaktaha. When you do that as a non-attached, enlightened person, then this is my work, so dharma, so I'm doing it. So we can face the most unpleasant duties with a smile. Not that we will be insensitive. We will be sensitive, but since the sensitivity will not be a painful experience. That's what it means. Every spiritual person will be sensitive to the problem of others, to the problem of the world. He won't be insensitive like a stone, not at all. but his sensitivity will be minus stress, pain, any kind of subjective feeling of depressed. That is called Swadharma. When we do our duty in this way, we can find solutions within our own mind. We will be able to tap into our own mind for solutions to many of the problems that we are facing. So it's called Loka Sangraha. Loka Sangraha means good for the world. You need a focus. You need to think of something when you do work. Something in your mind. That may not be anything related to our own selfish enjoyment, but you need it, a counter focus. So what is that counter focus? For the good of the world. So that is an example of the highest spiritual person that Lord Krishna is mentioning here. And then in the 26th verse we just touched, but we are going to discuss this again. Na buddhivedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshiye sarva karmani vidwan yukta samacharan. So one should not try to disturb the natural position, understanding of the average person. So an average person may be working hard with a definite motive, a purpose, a deadline, so to speak. Without a deadline, he won't be able to organize his actions, organize his time, his energy, so that he can do his work effectively and meet the deadline. That is what he is trained to do. Because without that purpose, the sense of definite and visible, tangible purpose, realistic purpose, we won't be able to bring together our energy resources and coordinate them into an action program. That is natural for all people. We are not talking about spiritual ideal. We are talking about all of us, most common people, who have a sense of goal, a sense of purpose in life. Because all actions are crystallizations of samskaras and vasanas. And they bring them all together into a kind of a desire, a goal, a purpose, and plan everything, coordinate everything accordingly. Suppose you tell such a person, no, you should start working without any sense of purpose. What happens? The person's mind may go blank because he is not a Buddha, unfortunately. If you have reached a Buddha, Buddha didn't have anything to be achieved, no desire, but he was one of the most hardworking men. Shankaracharya, the one who actually is responsible for popularizing Bhagavad Gita, he started his life, became a monk when he was 7 years old, and finished all his writings before 16th year. So, Ashtame Chadro Vedan Shodase Sarvashastravid Dwadase Kritavan Bhashyam Dvatrimse Muni Abhyagat. So he left his home when he was less than 7 years, became a monk when he was 7 years, mastered all the scriptures before 8th year, wrote all the most profound spiritual philosophical classics in Sanskrit language before he was 16th, and which scholars, after studying Vyakarana, Mimamsa, Nyaya, they have to work for decades to master those books, which he finished before he was 16th year. And then the next 16th year, he's walked all over India 4 times. India of those times included today's Afghanistan, as I mentioned, 8th century. And in 32 years, he did everything and left. Now, suppose you give the example of Shankara or somebody like him and tell an average person, you should work like that without any selfish motive. It will not happen. So no ideal spiritual teacher will lose sight of the fact The same code doesn't apply for everyone. The same code doesn't fit for everyone. Impossible. The ideal teacher will give only a small dose of spirituality to the beginner. I can give one of the most graphic illustrations of how this really works in spiritual history. See, Sri Ramakrishna had a disciple. He had many great disciples. Vivekananda himself was the greatest of them. He was himself a rishi, come down according to Sri Ramakrishna. But everyone was not like Vivekananda. There was another gentleman, and he was practically a profligate, a man who led a loose life. Girish Chandra Ghosh, a genius, more like Dostoevsky, who wrote all the great classics when he was fully drunk. Crime and Punishment, Brothers Karamazov, all he could write because he was fully drunk. And Girish Chandra Ghosh was a genius. When you exert your mental faculties, spiritual, intellectual faculties, and achieve something very great things, then what happens? This happens frequently to dramatists, playwrights, musicians, not all, but many at least, unfortunately. When you reach a very high level of excellence in any of the art, literature, many of these areas, then mind cannot come down slowly. Immediately, the mind will look for a resting place. And if you don't provide a spiritual idea to your mind, then what happens? Mind will choose something to let off the steam, the accumulated steam. And such people sometimes take to alcoholism or drug addictions. This is characteristic of people who are devoid of their spiritual idea. Because they were geniuses, but somehow from the highest flights of intellectual achievement, if you fall suddenly, all of a sudden, it will be disastrous. They will need something to forget themselves. They want to run away from themselves. They take to all these drugs and all that. So you need a higher ideal so that mind doesn't fall and hit the floor with a touch. So Girish Chandra Ghosh was given to alcohol, drinking. So what happens? He came to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna knew very well the highest spiritual philosophy cannot be taught to this man all of a sudden. He will think it's totally unrealistic. Suppose Sri Ramakrishna had told him, well, tomorrow onwards you should stop drinking, Girish Chandra Ghosh would have totally rejected. Because he was a very sincere person. He was very truthful person. He won't tell, well, I shall do accordingly, with the full conviction that he will try to do. He was not a hypocrite. He was he's a man of great integrity. He will agree to do something only if he knew that he could do that. So Sri Ramakrishna knew that this man had one good quality. He won't agree to something that he won't do. So Sri Ramakrishna did not ask him to stop drinking. He asked him, in the morning, and evening, before you go to sleep, take the name, God's name. And this man said, well, he doesn't know when he's going to sleep or when he's going to get up. But Sri Ramakrishna was struck by the sincerity, the truthfulness of this man. And that's enough for a great spiritual teacher to get a handle on this man's mind. So Sri Ramakrishna told him, all right, well, at least once you can do. He also said, well, I may not be able to do that. So finally, Sri Ramakrishna told him, now, okay, from now onwards, you please, you just think that you are given your full responsibility, power of attorney. That word is used. You give full spiritual power of attorney to me. Now, what does it mean, power of attorney in the legal? It's a legal term. In spiritual realm, it means complete prapatti, sharanagati, self-surrender. So from now onwards, you should always remember that I have taken your full spiritual responsibility. So Girish Chandra Ghosh did not understand the true meaning of it at that time. But gradually it became impossible for him to touch alcohol, to do anything wrong. From that moment onwards, his mind automatically withdrew from all this. It became physically and psychologically impossible for him to do anything bad. And he became a saint. So, how Sri Ramakrishna gave a small, tiny dose of spiritual medicine. Sri Ramakrishna was living in God's presence all the time. He was instead of an incarnation. But that Sri Ramakrishna did not teach meditation to Girish Chandra Ghosh. He knew he won't understand it. And he himself would have said that he won't understand it. Would have said. So, a great teacher will not will unsettle the disciple's mind. Na buddhivedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam. So what one should do? Our actions, our thoughts, our ideas, our life, our character, all linked to our own samskaras. That's what we should remember. We are not able to do what we want to do because our mind will not permit us to do what we want to do. And our mind is nothing but a composite mixture of our samskaras, what we call impressions, vasanas, vrittis. Whatever we do will become a vritti, it becomes a samskara, it becomes a vasana, it becomes a sankalpa, and accordingly we continue our actions. So the whole process of human mind, human mental constitution is composed of innumerable samskaras, vasanas, some of them good, some of them bad. That's how the mind works, functions. So Sri Ramakrishna knew Girish Chandra Ghosh's samskaras were not so good. But he had one good quality. He was a truthful man of great integrity. So every person should evolve gradually. People frequently ask this question, if Christ could do that, why not I? Buddha could do that, why not I? Will anybody be happy to exchange your place with Christ bearing a big wooden cross and being driven through the streets of Jerusalem, beaten by the Roman soldiers? Not a very pleasant experience, and then crucified at the end of it. People won't be happy to exchange their position with Christ in these matters. But they want to, if it is okay for Christ, why not I? We have not become Christ till now. When we become Buddhas, it will be okay. So it's just a matter of a few millions of life cycles. Maybe we have to go through a few more millions of years, we may become like Buddhas. It's a matter of degrees, difference in degrees, not in kind. So, because our samskaras, normal samskaras of a human being, vasanas, vrittis, they can evolve. So Vedanta tells you, Vedanta and Yoga they tell you that we can accumulate, we can generate healthy samskaras and creative, constructive, spiritual samskaras by our own effort. This may sound like a bit mythical in practical, but it's a fact. Anyone who wants to lead a spiritual life can begin any moment, any day, instantly. Why? How? We can start doing good actions. At a physical level, we have some freedom. We don't have freedom when it comes to our thoughts, ideas, because we don't know how our mind is going, what thought is going to emerge in our mind next moment. It's not within our control. But it is very much within our control, to some extent, what we are going to do at the physical level. So any kind of physical activity, noble activity, even with a selfish motive, will generate healthy samskaras. And if a person goes on doing good actions for a long time, slowly his mind will begin to change. because he's generating samskaras and vrittis and vasanas, which will slowly evolve, and then you find such persons are able to understand the true implications of spiritual ideas. But there is a slow process, gradual evolution. So things are not a matter of our choice, it's a matter of our own evolution, our own becoming ready for it. That's why na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sankidam. Otherwise people will start imitating. And imitation is self-destructive. Imitation prevents your natural growth. And without actually making any progress, suddenly we feel that we have made a great progress, which actually blocks the doors for real growth. So, Joshi sarva karmani vidwan yukta samacharan. So the discussion continues. 27th verse, next class. Now we can have interaction. We have about 10 minutes for ask questions and answers. Most welcome.
Swamiji, how does the vrittis and the samskaras and vasanas relate to, from Samkhya, the chitta, the manas, buddhi? How does it relate to that? And also the idea of the witness consciousness related to this vrittis and vasanas and samskaras.
See, witnessship, that is a higher state of spiritual evolution. When you can observe your own mind as a sakshi, when you can look upon everything as you are a witness, the whole life, your own mind, the samskaras functioning in your own mind become objectified, and you are a witness sakshi. Sakshi means both rutvad, ayudasinitva, sakshitim, you are totally non-attached. That is a higher state. Your question is Sankhya, okay. Now, in this Sankhya Yoga, on the one hand, Vedanta on the other. These are two perspectives. In Sankhya philosophy, which is essentially a dualistic philosophy, Dvaita philosophy, there are two fundamental categories, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is effulgent but inactive. Prakriti is active but jada, means non-effulgent. It's a contradiction, logical fallacy, but I'm not going to those aspects. Now, Vedanta has taken the analysis, the psychological analysis of Sankhya philosophy and fully accepted. It is called, Samandara Siddhantavada. Vedanta accepts many of the teachings of other systems of philosophy as logically acceptable. For example, how from Prakriti, Mahatattva, from Mahatattva, Ahankara, then Sattvika Ahankara, Rajasya Ahankara, Tamasya Ahankara, then Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas and mind and Panchatanmatras and Panchamahabhutas, how they evolve. All these details are a unique combination of Sankhya philosophy, which explains the constitution of the human mind. It fully accepted. Sankhya system also accepts the theory that whatever we do, it creates a vritti. That's found in yoga also. See, when we do any action with any deliberate action, with full awareness that we are doing it, kartrutva and bhoktrutva, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer of my actions. When you do that, that action produces two results. One is the tangible, visible result, drishta. If you give $500 to another person to help him, he gets $500 and you lose $500. It's obvious. But afterwards, your, your mind takes a promotion. Your mind has accumulated a positive samskara because of your generosity, compassion, kindness, etc. Like that, if a person goes on doing good actions, these good actions will produce an invisible impact, results, which are good actions, then good results, even actions done with a definite motive, selfish motive, but if a noble action, it will produce a possible result. If you help a person $500 to, and with the newspaper, media all taken, proclaim your compassion, and you want that name to be known to everyone, even that is good than doing nothing good for anyone. Because that positive action will produce a vritti. And that will again lead to another stage where you will do all these noble actions without any definite selfish motive. So gradual evolution, because our mind begins to move, evolve and change, accumulating more and more samskaras. So physical actions will generate spiritual energy. And that spiritual energy is called vasanas. So if you have a child, little boy, who, though he's throughout in his whole family history, there was nobody who was a musician, but this child displays extraordinary talent for music. It happens, the child must have practiced music in his previous life. So that vasana, so those memories are remembered, they begin to unfold, they begin to express themselves as strong tendencies, vasanas and samskaras. Samskaras become vasanas. Samskaras are tendencies. They are not proactive. When samskaras become proactive, they become vasana. So the child has a vasana for music. So because he has the samskara in his mental system. So that leads to continued activity along the same lines. So that actually slowly makes us, helps us to evolve further and become spiritually more and more mature and enlightenment. It's a fact. The point is, Sankhya philosophy, especially yoga, more than Sankhya, the vrittis and samskaras are dealt with more elaborately in yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutras and number of commentaries. Samskara itself is a unique contribution of Vyasa, who wrote a commentary in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. That was a great work of Vyasa. And there are many other interpretory works written on Vyasa's commentary, called other super commentaries of Tikas and all that. Vajaspati, Bhoja, and Vijnana Bhikshu, Shankaracharya, and others, they wrote books on Vyasa's commentary. So this concept of samskaras coming from actions through vrittis and vasanas is a unique concept. It is so real. That is accepted by Vedantins. For our Vedantins are concerned, the mind and samskaras are part of the andhakaranas. Andhakarana means internal organs, mana, buddhi, chitta and ahankara. So all these samskaras will function through mind, through thoughts, good and bad, thoughts, sankalpa and vikalpa, and our own identification with things, memories in chittam. So ideas and samskaras coming from previous actions, all these are accepted by Vedantins. So it is called Samandra Siddhantavada, which is not part of, it's a part of Vedantic hermeneutics, which is not within our scope here. Okay.
Then, thank you for explaining that. So how does the witness consciousness come into freeing us from this process? And what would the term be used in Samkhya versus Vedanta for this witness consciousness?
Sankhyas and Yoga, they don't accept the witness idea. It is a Vedantic concept. In Vedanta, when you are able to de-identify, detach yourself from the from mana, from mind, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, all these, when you look upon when you feel you are the non-participating witness, the Atman, which is, the subject comes here, the next few verses comes, When you reach that level of spiritual progress, you will be able to de-link, detach yourself from your physical, intellectual, mental, or these realms. And your own body, your own mind, your own thoughts all will become objects, and you, the real you, Atman, when you identify yourself with Atman, you become the subject, the witness, the Sakshi. That is the very high level of spiritual evolution. That's what it is. So even the most enlightened spiritual teachers will not assume this witness, Sakshi Bhava, witnesship all the time. But at some point, whenever they will have always that conviction, I am the transcendental, the trans-empirical, the all-pervading Sakshi. That feeling will be there. When you reach that realization, you are the Atman, not body, mind, or intellect, etc. So the Sakshi aspect should not be confused, should not be linked to Yoga and Sankhya. Yoga and Sankhya philosophies don't accept it because they are all dualistic philosophers. Sakshi aspect comes only in Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, not in non-Advaitic schools of Vedanta, like Ramanuja, Madhva, Vallabha, Nimbarka, no. Only in Advaita Vedanta. Okay, right. So before I conclude, I have some important announcements. So, we have a lot of programs. Next Friday, 21st, Friday, 21st February, 7:30, we have Shivaratri worship. 21st February, Friday, we have Shivaratri celebration worship in the new temple at Velo Street at 7:30 p.m. in the evening. And then we have Sri Ramakrishna's birthday celebration on Saturday, February 29th. The puja will begin at 10 a.m. It will be over by around 2 o'clock, followed by Prasad lunch. So, no Friday class in the old temple from February 21st to March the 6th. That means the next class will be March 13th. Please remember. The next class on Bhagavad Gita will be on March 13th. Before that, we have a number of celebrations. You are most welcome to attend all our programs. Shivaratri, Friday, February 21st, 7:30 p.m. in the evening in the new temple, Velo Street. And then Sri Ramakrishna's birthday celebration and puja, Saturday, February 29th, 10 a.m. That is also the new temple. Thank you. Namaskar. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Pranamastu.